Welcome to Sparks of Love. Today we have pretty much a young girl dream come true for me. We have Lou Gramm from Foreigner here, the lead singer. So welcome, Lou.
How are you?
I'm really good, but I couldn't sleep last night because I kept thinking to myself, I got to go back in time and tell the little girl that would lay on the floor with her boombox listening to you sing that one day I'll get to meet you and interview you. But I told myself she wouldn't believe it. Like, she would not believe it. So I'm just like super excited. And like I said, I had a hard time sleeping last night. And I'm so honored that you're spending time with Sparks of Love podcast. We are, I think about 4 miles from where you grew up. So I raised my kids after they were all born in Los Angeles, where I went to school. But I moved here when they were toddlers and raised them in the Rochester region and have stayed because I love it here. I think it has just such a great family feel. And I know that you still are in the area, which, I think is great. You're such a Rochester gem. I was thinking on my drive over to the studio, if Rochester were a jewel box, you would be like the diamond, the sapphire, the ruby, because you're so family-oriented, community-oriented, and to me, and I am like a music aficionado, I think you have the best male rock voice out there. Like, I've listened to all of them. I wanted, no shame to Paul Rogers. The way you deliver a song, Lou, is, first of all, it's your soul. And there's so much passion, but you also make the listener feel like this intimate connection with the song. Like, you really believe the words that you're saying. And I'm so, overwhelmed by your talent. And just thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for those wonderful compliments. I do connect to the songs I sing, and most of them because I write the lyrics, and there's always not complete truth to them. I take shreds of truth and then let my imagination take it from there.
Yeah, and that's true. So when I read your autobiography, so I just want to show this. So this is Jukebox Hero, which you wrote in collaboration with Scott Petoniak, who's a great writer from the Rochester region. Yes. I sat down and read it in one sitting. I couldn't put it down. I want more from this. I saw there's an updated edition, which is the version I got. But what I came away from is that you are a man who does know what love is. Like, you know what love is. You have made your, the latter part of your career totally devoted to your family and built around that, which I thought was super sweet. And the way you have brought in people like Mr. Turgan, who grew up in North Chili, and brought your father and your brothers into your music towards the end. And I was thinking, like, the reason for this podcast is I have been on a journey to discover deeper meanings of love. And I'm divorced, and I've had 2 years now with no kids in the house. The first year I went wild and went to all the concerts. I think I went to 16 concerts 2 years ago. Because I was trapped at home with, 4 kids by myself. I'm from North Carolina, and I've lived here 22 years and have had no help. And so that's what I do now. I hike and I go to concerts, and I am going to your concert this Saturday, March 9th. Yeah.
So are your kids grown and out of the house now?
Yes. So my daughter's a musician in Los Angeles, and some of the things you wrote in the book really resonated. The story you told about leaning your ear in the book against the war memorial when Jimi Hendrix was in town and not being able to afford to go in. I mean, first of all, that brought tears to my eyes. But the passion and the dedication that you have for your craft, it shows that this has been a lifelong love affair for you. And, my boys love music. 2 of them can play a little piano and guitar. My daughter plays 4 instruments. Oh. Music was a big part of my family growing up in the Blue Ridge foothills of North Carolina. My grandma and grandpa had a bluegrass band. So
that's awesome.
So music was a big part of things for me. And for me, that's how I show love to my kids. So I always had musical instruments around the house. And when I read and hear that your brother, would go and play your drums when you were not there, I love it.
It was pretty funny stuff. It took me a while to put 2 and 2 together that something was not right, And I had to sneak around the house and look through the basement window to see him actually playing the drums before all the pieces came together,
That's awesome. And I love the story about how your dad, saved up and got that drum set, because when my daughter got her first guitar, it was, I think, over at Stutzman's, and we had to lay it away. And she would get money at Christmas, little gift cards, and we saved and saved and saved.
She would put money down on it until it was paid for? Wow.
Mm-hmm. And we would go visit the guitar. I have pictures of her I can share with you later, where she would go and we'd go visit the guitar that Saturday, and she'd play it for about an hour, and then we'd drive home. And I'll never forget the look on her face when she brought that guitar home. And so much of what you talked about in your book, that love of music, and now you're extending it through the Lou Gramm Foundation.
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about the Lou Gramm Foundation? I'd love to help you promote that in any way I can, so we can use this platform a little bit.
It's a foundation for people, mostly kids. They could be of any age, though, and it's for the ones that feel that they want to learn how to play an instrument, or want to test the waters and see if they want to devote their life to music, but are just not in the financial situation to afford an instrument, or maybe they have an instrument but can't afford lessons.
Yeah.
So that's where we decided to delve into the picture and help them follow it through.
Yeah, that to me is love. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's incredibly fulfilling to hear from people who have now got just enough money to see their dream through.
Yeah. In the book, you talked about having the scholarship, but all the scholarships were taken for you to be able to go to a local Rochester-based music program, and that broke my heart. With my daughter, I would eat ramen noodles so I could afford her lessons. So she took guitar lessons at Dory's Music Studio in Spencerport. And I still remember, and I still remember like sitting in the rain in the car with my two younger sons waiting for her, to get finished with her lesson. And she would come back out to the car and say, "You want to see these chords I learned?" And then same with music and voice lessons. I was in a position as a single mom to be able to drive an $800 car so I could give her those lessons. And I did that for 2 years. My car was $800. But when I saw that you're a famous rock star, like you're global, and to come back here and still give back, that shows me your heart. And I read the book and I'm like, I have to get to know this person on a human level, because you are all about the love of music. It is not self-aggrandizement for you. You really love music, and it's evident to me. So, I'm just personally really grateful for that foundation and what you're trying to do.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
I was listening to a lot of your songs yesterday in preparation for this, and and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not a musicologist. You have a pretty high register that you can get to. Like, I do
have a high register. Yes, I do.
Do you know what it is? Is it 3.6 octaves?
I can't. I couldn't tell you. I've been told a number of times that it's not a number that means anything to me.
Yeah. But I listened to a lot of other, like I went to see Steven Tyler and Aerosmith in Pittsburgh a couple of months ago, their second show of their current tour before he had to stop because of his voice, and I could hear it that night. And he does have that Dream Reaver song where he gets really high. But I looked at the consistent catalog that you have, not only in your solo career, but in your time with Foreigner. Yes. You're consistently on those high notes. Like, it's pretty amazing. Like, I don't know how you do it.
I've got to tell you that the songs that Mick and I wrote, no matter what it was a rocker or a ballad, I could count on Mick putting a section in there that I went, way high.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think to myself after, why does he do that all the time? And I it must sound okay. It must sound good. So.
I think that you are just a gem with your voice, and that commitment to the hitting the notes is what really, I think, draws the listener in on every single song. Like, I pretty much listened to your entire catalog this weekend. I wanted to make sure I was really prepared, and there's ballads, but you know the song that I love the most, and you're probably going to laugh, but Urgent. I love Urgent. That one.
Yeah, I like it more too. Yes.
Is that one of your favorites?
Yes, it is.
Tell me why.
It's. I think the beat and the phrasing of the lyrics between the beat and it's very solid. It's not flashy. It's just solid. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it starts off really strong too. That do 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 like that. Like I'm Gen X, and like we hear that, we're like deer in the headlights. Like that's the song, you know. You can be in Wegmans, and as soon as that do 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 do, everyone's just like, you know, like as like a Gen X anthem, you know. But so many of your songs are like that. And today I wore Midnight Blue because that song, which was from your first solo album, correct?
Yes,
and it went #1. And I think it was the year I graduated high school. And I'm going to be aging myself here. It was 1987, and that's the year that song came out. About 2 months before I graduated high school. And it received the most airplay, I think, of any song that year that was released that year.
Yes, it did. Yes.
Yeah, and so I know everything about it, but I wore this color blue to kind of honor that song. Can you tell me a little bit about the making of Midnight Blue for our listeners?
Well, I wrote that with Bruce Turgan, and I think I lived in Katona, New York, which is north of White Plains at the time. Okay. And I had a very small house with a little basement in it. And I set my drums up there, and I had a TX 4-track tape machine and a small amplifier and a guitar and a little keyboard. And I think I made the beat of the song on my drums first, and I recorded that, and then I sang to the drum beat without any chords. I had the melody in my head, and I sang the melody with some of the words, and then I fit the chords to the melody, which is really a bass backward way of doing things.
That's a cool thing, though. Have you ever thought about doing like a master class in songwriting? Because you are in the Songwriters Hall of Fame since 2013. Yes. And I was thinking with all the different music, venues here in the Rochester region, you could absolutely teach a master class on songwriting.
Well, that I hadn't thought about that before. That's an interesting idea. You know what? I'm going to save that idea and maybe work something on that.
I came up with like 12 ideas if we have time afterwards, because you have so much talent and you have that heart to want to give back. I think there should be a Lou Gramm Day on May 2nd. I know that's your birthday. So Phil a Taurus. I'm a Taurus as well. But I think that there's just a lot that you seem to want to be giving back through your foundation. So I'll send your manager some ideas that I came up with.
Okay.
After the podcast.
Sounds great. Please do.
All right. Okay, well, so tell me about the line in Midnight Blue. The one that I love is it's something like, and I'm going to butcher this, Lou, I'm done following, I've just got to follow through. That's the line that gets me so much. Tell me about that line.
See, what I'm trying to think.
Something like, I'm done following, you just got to follow through. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's the exact line, but I know the one.
I know I'm butchering it.
Yes, yeah, no, you got most of it. It's just saying that I'm ready to express myself and instead of being a part of something that I'm the one who quietly does my job.
Yeah.
I want to take the lead and express myself and have people around me follow what I'm doing.
Yeah. That really resonated with me. And I am the oldest child. I'm used to being a leader. I was captain of a basketball team. And then I moved to Los Angeles and I became like this really tiny fish in a very large ocean. And it was really hard to find my voice. And I've found, even in my personal career, I've worked in politics, I've worked in, research. And it's really, as a woman, I find that sometimes what you just described is true for me, that I'm given a list of things to do and my creative input is not acknowledged. And I sense through the book your frustration with that, because you seem to be partnership oriented in your mind. You bring your crew in, and I love that you're struck out on your own. You have the Lou Gramm and his All-Stars now. So I think you're carving the path in life that I think most people, especially Americans with our, rugged individualism, we really want to achieve. So is some of the reason for your concert this weekend about that, like not being a follower, but creating my own path and bringing in your local friends and teammates?
Yes. It is exactly, yes. And while my band my brother plays drums for me, so he's from the Rochester area. He doesn't live there anymore, but he was. Yes.
Ben Grammatico, and you are Louis Andrew Grammatico, correct?
That's correct. Yes, very much.
And we want to
so.
make sure we give your family its surname its due there.
Yes, and I hadn't even thought about shortening my name, but Foreigner's first manager, Bud Prager, took me aside one day, called me into his office, and said, he goes, he says, he said, I don't know how to say this, but there's still a lot of people who have problems in this country with immigrant names and the idea of people being here from other countries. He goes, I know you're as American as they come. He said, but he says, I've got a sinking feeling that somewhere down the line, you're going to be you're going to have bias against you because of your long, many syllable Italian last name. He goes, and what's going to really rankle you is when you do interviews and they say Louis Grammatico or Germanico or they start butchering your name. He says that's going to put a slant on your interview because you're going to be a little miffed.
Oh, okay. Am I saying it right when I say Grammatico?
You're saying it perfectly, but
Southern girl here.
I knew exactly what he was talking about because I've heard it mispronounced many times, and he said, why don't we, for the sake of the band and keeping you sharp and in a good frame of reference when people talk to you, why don't we just shorten the name to Gramm? Yeah. And you can leave it legally grammatical, but for your career here, leave it at Gramm. And he suggested GRAM.
Yeah.
And I thought, and I said, I'd have to do the GRAMM.
Yeah.
And so without, I didn't talk to my parents about it or anything. I just decided that that's what I was going to do because it totally made sense to me. And I know me pretty well. And I would start to get a little rankled if I heard my name mispronounced over and over again. So
yeah,
so
it's kind of like a nickname, right?
I have no regrets about it at all.
Yeah, Gramm is kind of like a nickname of Grammatico in some ways.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
yes,
but nothing wrong with sweethearted Italian boys. Like we girls swoon over that, so you wouldn't have had any trouble from the female audience. I don't think.
Right. I didn't regret that at all. Actually, it was really good for me to do it that way.
Yeah. Well, so you're performing this weekend in your hometown with Lou Gramm All-Stars. Can you tell me a little bit? Can you give a sneak peek of your set list or what we can expect? Because Scott and his wife and I are going. We're all three very excited to be going.
Awesome. Excuse me. And so I think we're going to be starting out with a good helping of early Foreigner. Mm-hmm. Some of the hits from the first and the second album, and I think maybe a third of the way or or so through the set, we're going to do, I think we'll be doing Just Between You and Me from my Long Hard Look solo album. And I think we'll probably be hitting Urgent as we come into the home stretch.
Yeah,
and some of the other hard rockers, we'll be doing Midnight Blue around that point too. And I think towards the end of the show is when we maybe 3/4 of the way through the last 2 or 3 songs we'll do I Want to Know What Love Is.
Okay.
And I think we'll finish up with Urgent and Jukebox Hero. And Hot Blood.
Oh, I love that. I love Jukebox Hero. So would you mind telling the story about Jukebox Hero that you told in the book? Because it really got to me.
Well, thank you. I remember taking a bus to the Rochester War Memorial. Jimi Hendrix was playing, and I was a Hendrix fan, but I had never been to the War Memorial for a concert at that point. And I didn't have a ticket. So I went to the side door of the War Memorial where they let in guests who have backstage passes and stuff. Yeah. And I positioned myself to where when that door opened, I could see a good part of the stage and the audience. And so every time someone went in, I was getting at least 20, 25 seconds, especially if two or three sets of people came in. I'd see 45 minutes to a minute of Hendrix performing, and the audience reaction, which really blew me away. Yeah. And I was soaked because it was raining that night, but I went away. I went away with a feeling that it backed up my original feeling when I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, that's what I wanted to do with my life.
Yeah. I get chills. I actually got chills just then from hearing that. I had a similar experience, not in the rain. It wasn't as romantic, as that. I grew up really poor and a daughter of a teenage single mom, and my biological father did not factor in, and we didn't have money for things like that. And I remember finally being out on my own and being in LA and just not having any money. I don't know how I survived, the college years out there, and just not having money to go to the Hollywood Bowl. There was an act that was coming into town, and I really wanted to go, and I couldn't go. And so we just drove near. I do actually remember who it was, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say or not. It was the Police, so I wanted to go. I did get to see them years. Yeah, I got to see Sting years later with Annie Lennox opening for him at Darien Lake.
That's awesome.
So that was wonderful. But at the time, I didn't have the money to go. And I remember just being near. We got near the traffic, as you remember, to get to the Hollywood Bowl. It was insane.
Right. It was outrageous.
So I could hear the cheers. I couldn't really hear a whole lot of the music. So when I read your story in the book, I can relate to that. And I think so many struggling musicians can relate to that. And I made sure that my kids had their music lessons because of that. So I just love that story.
You must have liked my Rolling Stones story then too, huh?
I was getting ready to ask. That was my next question. Okay. Can you tell me the Rolling Stones story? Because this one I love. So tell me that story.
Well, I was 15 years old, and I had seen the Rolling Stones on Ed Sullivan, just like I saw the Beatles at the Ed Sullivan Show, and I heard through a friend of mine that they were coming to Rochester to one of the early shows in their tour, and I couldn't believe that the Rolling Stones with they had a string of hits already, and that they would be coming to little old Rochester,
Yeah.
And when I found out, I talked to a couple of friends of mine, guy friends and girlfriends, and none of us had tickets nor the money for tickets. But we were going to meet downtown at the Rochester War Memorial and see what we could do. Well, I told my parents at dinner that I was meeting some friends at the War Memorial. I'm 15,
Right. Yeah.
War Memorial to try and see the Stones, and they look at each other and they said, "No, you're not." Yeah. I said, "Why?" I said, "I'm old enough to do that." I said, "I'll be with friends. I'm not going to drink or do anything." I said, "It'll be okay." And they said, "No, you're not." So I pushed away from the table and I went upstairs to my room, stopped off upstairs to my room, angry.
Yeah.
But I wasn't really that angry because when I got to my room, I'm sure they thought I was sulking. I was getting dressed and primped, ready to go to the concert. So I had $10 or $15 on me and my ID and my tight jeans and my, remember British Stompers, British Walkers. I had a pair of those. Those are great shoes. I don't know why they don't make them anymore.
Yeah.
But and all of a sudden everything was real quiet. I ran down the stairs. It was September. And so we still had our door open with the screen door on, and I pushed the screen door, and the screen door flew open, hit the side of the house, and came back and closed. And I started running down my street towards one of the main roads that led to downtown Rochester.
Yeah.
And
Buffalo
as I was
lovely.
getting towards the end of the street, I heard, "Louis, I'm gonna kill you." and when I heard that, I shuddered for a minute, and then I started laughing out loud. And when I got to the end of the street, I stuck my hand out to thumb for a ride, and the first car that went by picked me up, and there was a bunch of people all going to the concert.
Oh my gosh.
So I caught a ride, and when I got there, I found my friends right away, and one of them did have tickets for us. Mm. So we went in and we saw the concert, and about 2/3 of the way through the concert, the chief of police walked up on stage with about 5 or 6 policemen and waved the Stones off in the middle of the song, made them stop in the middle of the song.
Wow.
And the chief of police took Jagger's mic off the stand and came out to the front of the stage and said, "I had hoped you would all be ladies and gentlemen here for this concert, but your behavior is unbelievably bad." He says, "So it's real unfortunate, but this concert is over."
Wow.
And he put the mic back in Jagger's hand, and you could see the Stones were pissed off,
Yeah.
and so they had left the stage. They were angry. You could see that, and the audience, which it was a packed house at the War Memorial in those days. I don't know how many, 13 or 14,000 was, and through all that, the auditorium was still dark, but the spotlights were on the policemen.
Wow!
And all of a sudden, I just happened to look up, and I saw something twirling, going towards the chief of police.
Yeah.
And it hit him in the eye.
Oh my goodness.
And he went backwards, and the other policeman kind of caught him, and his eye was bleeding.
Oh my goodness.
And it was a pack of gum. You know how the old pack of gums used to be? Where you take the thing, twirl it off, and take a stick on it. Mm-hmm. That's what this was. It was a pack of gum, and somebody had tossed it, and it was doing this while it was in the air, and the corner of it hit him in the eye, and he lost sight in that eye.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so the one girl that was one of my friends there, she loved Brian Jones. Do you remember Brian Jones?
Well, I don't remember him, but I know the name. Yes.
Yeah. You remember what he looked like,
I remember.
He had blonde hair with bangs that came down past his eyes, and he was his rest of his hair was like shoulder length, and that's how she wore her hair too, just like that. Yeah, and so one of our friends found a way to the side door, and we ran out that door, and there was a limousine parked there waiting for them.
Oh my goodness!
So this girl's name she was a Rochester girl too. Her name was Kathy Evans, and she was a really nice girl, and she was totally flipped on Brian Jones, and so we waited there, and Keith Richards came out, and Charlie Watts, and Bill Wyman, and everything. Then Jagger, and then finally the last one to get in the car was Brian Jones.
Wow.
And when he shut the door, she broke free of the crowd and went up and jumped on the trunk of the car, holding on like this. Yeah. And the limo drivers kind of stepped on it a little bit, and the car went down and threw her back off the car, and she fell on her back and hit her head on the ground.
Oh no!
She wasn't unconscious or anything, but she was stunned. You could see that,
Yeah.
And the police were keeping everybody back, and so Brian Jones gets out of the car. He was the last one in. He was the first one out. He ran over to her and helped her up, and asked her if she was okay. And as soon as he did that, she was very okay.
She probably thought it was a dream.
He gave her a kiss on the cheek and helped her back to us, and got back in the car and left. And she was in La La Land the rest of the night.
I bet. Well, I'm going to see the Stones this year finally. I had tickets to see them in Dallas, and COVID hit. And then Charlie Watts died. And so I was kind of, on multiple levels dismayed by that. That was awful. I loved him. Yep. But I'm taking my college-age son who goes to SUNY Brockport to see the Stones. And so I'm continuing that music, tradition.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And my oldest has...
Do you know and like the Stones? Oh, good.
Yeah, I took him to see Aerosmith in Pittsburgh and the Red Hot Chili Peppers in Syracuse. And I take my son with autism to see all the shows. Like, we are big music family. When I say we're, like, addicted, I can't tell you how many shows I take my kids.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Tom Petty, I took my youngest to see his first concert, I think 3 months before Tom died. That was my youngest son's first concert. So we really do have that similarity in the way that you love music. I can totally relate to you with that. And, I just feel like you're, to me, Mr. Music, Mr. Rochester. I need to talk to Cosmo Gianta. He's the gate supervisor. Do you know Cosmo?
Yes.
Yeah, so I know him through my autism charity work that I do. So I've got to tell him we got to get a Lou Gramm Day or Lou Grammatico. Maybe we should make it Lou Grammatico. To honor your family name.
Stick with the Gramm for now.
Stick with the Gramm.
Yeah, and not everybody would understand.
Yeah, that's true. Well, diehard fans, we understand.
Yes.
So I also, after I secured your interview on here, and like I said earlier, I kept pinching myself, going, "It's not real. This is not happening." You got nominated for the Hall of Fame. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure.
I'm super excited for you for that.
We've been hoping for a nomination for about 25 years.
And deserving, absolutely deserving.
We've been eligible for that long.
Yeah.
And it really never came. Mm-hmm. And from what I understand, that Mick was friends with the director over there, who was Jan Wenner, who was the owner of the Rolling Stone magazine. Mm-hmm. And he was also the director of the Rock and Hall of Fame.
Oh, okay.
And he and Mick were close friends. They did a lot of things together, worked out, played tennis. Him and his wife went out with Mick and his wife all the time. They were close buds. And I'm not sure exactly what happened, but there was a falling out in the friendship. And just about the time they fell out was when we became eligible.
Well, you're very eligible. So, Foreigner, just so the listeners know, you guys have like more hits than people that are already in the Hall of Fame. Not that they're not worthy, absolutely worthy.
Yes.
Your voice to me is the voice of American rock. Like, I mean, yes, there's ballads, and Foreigner, became world famous for the ballads, but you're a hard rocking singer, and your voice is to me the penultimate of that. And the number one
awesome.
songs.
Thank you.
I think you've had like 30 songs or more to hit like the top 10. Like, it's amazing the catalog that is Foreigner. And to have it here in Rochester, I'm really not kidding when I say I'm going to work with somebody to get us a Lou Gramm Day. But this morning, I started my day by going into the Hall of Fame, the Rock Hall of Fame, and nominating Foreigner. And I found out after I did that, you can do it every day. So we need to start an online campaign. We need to start an online campaign to get Foreigner, nominated every day, because Rochester, we have like the best rock singer of all time in Rochester. So I think it needs to happen. And I'm going to, promote it as much as I can through this podcast, Lou, because I really think it's very deserving, and we can't let that pass. Like, we have a gem here in Rochester, and globally too.
I appreciate that. You're so nice.
Well, I mean it. I mean,
so honestly, when we finally did get a nomination, after all was said and done, with mixed friendship with Jan Wenner, Jan stepped down as the head of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Okay.
And as soon as that happened, we got a nomination.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be political. It should be on complete talent.
I think so too. But why we weren't nominated was very political.
Yeah. Well, I want to go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year. So when I go, I'm going to make sure it's after, the nominations, and hopefully, Foreigner will be there. And I just, wish you all the best. I think that you are, just a great example of how to give back to the people. And that's something that really means a whole lot to me, and how I try to live my life, how I've tried to raise my children. And like I said, I loved how you honored your parents and that you brought your brothers in. And you also have 5 kids, is that right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I have 5 children, which I have 4.
Ranging in ages from 42 to 6.
42. That's a big range. Mine, I have 4, so you beat me by 1 there. Mine are from 21 to 26. I had 4 kids in 5.5 years, so I was like pretty busy there.
Yes,
you
were.
can see why I didn't get to go to concerts for a while, Lou. But I will tell you this, one of the things that I used to do, I don't know how you use music with your kids, but one time my kids were fighting, and I mean, just like they're close in age, and I came downstairs and I heard this like silent, like butterfly wings beating. I'm like, what is that noise? And they're little. And I turned the corner to the living room, and they're all 4 in their pajamas after bath time and pummeling each other. And so I just cranked up Mary J. Blige's Family Affair, and it just stopped them in the tracks. And that's when I learned the power of music. And then other times I'd be driving them to like preschool, and like I'd see little heads headbanging in the back, and I'm like, my work here is done, But you told a funny story about with your brother. You two had a fight one time, and you sabotaged his record collection.
Yes, I did. I think I was only about 5 or 6 years old. Yeah. And I can't remember what we were fighting over, but he was 4.5 years older than me, and he was a big kid. He was tall. Yeah. And it was one of those things where if we were fighting, he would hold his arm out against my head, and I'd be doing this and not be able to reach him. So he left the room, and he had a collection of 45 records that he liked. And my dad always put a rug runner over our wall-to-wall carpet to keep the traffic pattern from wearing out. So I slipped about 5 or 6 45 records underneath the rug runner. And I said something to him where he started chasing me, and I ran up the stairs, and he ran through the living room over the rug runner. Crunch, 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 crunch.
Oh my God.
And it was a sickening sound. And he stopped in his tracks and pulled the runner up, and he had about 5 45 records that were in pieces.
Oh my goodness.
Boy,
has he forgiven you?
I think he has after all these years, but it took a long time.
Oh my gosh.
It was pretty underhanded, even for me,
Yeah. Yeah. But that just reminded me of like raising my kids and the things that they would do to each other. I just love the book so much. So I think everybody, should pick this up. You'll have it read probably in about 3 hours. I literally couldn't put it down. Very well done. And I'm so looking forward to Saturday. And like I said at the beginning of this interview, I want to go back in time and tell, the young girl lying on her shag carpet floor, with the boom box, listening to you singing your songs, like you're going to get to meet him one day. And I wouldn't believe it then. But I am just so honored. And Rochester has such a cultural gem in you. And I just thank you so much for your time today, Lou, and for your years and years of dedication. And looking forward to rocking out with you Saturday.
I enjoyed this very much.
Oh, me too. All right. Well, thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
Sounds good. And see you on Saturday?
Yep. See you on Saturday. Yep, I will be rocking with you.